times. And it reinforces the need for agile, swift, and vibrant leadership. You will agree with me that this decade has brought with it enormous challenges that directors of businesses globally never anticipated. So it's not just in our country, it's all over the world that we are all taking unawares. In the last quarter of 2019, the world has grappled with the fact of a devastating virus that changed the world in all its ramifications. The reverberating effect of COVID-19 is still with us, very much with us. Though I can see some of you have just discarded your face masks and so on, while some have still stuck with it. We can only thank God for bringing us up to this stage. So this has brought new realities, which exerted great and deep thinking for survival. As we thought we were gradually edging out of this crisis, the world was rudely awakened in a most unlikely fashion, with what started as a dispute between the two Eastern European neighbors have now become a full-blown war. So it's still having its own effects and in everything, all ramifications. Prices of essential items like food, oil, and gas have spiked significantly. So these are all the challenges we face today. I think today is therefore timely and apt. We do not know yet how much more unpredictable this decade will be for business in particular and the world in general. And since we do not know, the best thing is for us to prepare ourselves in terms of how we respond to these uncertainties. It's therefore important that directors imbibe the concept of agile leadership to manage these uncertainties. Agile leadership has been described as the craft of creating the right context for self-organization. And it is an entirely new approach to leading people in this fast-changing world. Agile leaders focus on the needs of others. Of course, our special guest for today is well known for this. I mean, focusing on the needs of others, acknowledge other people's perspectives, involve them in decisions which are appropriate, and build a sense of community within their teams, because we can only thrive, not just survive, we can only thrive as a team and in working together. Thank you very much, DG. I can see the difference. More than any other factor, the key to a successful agile transformation is for leaders, particularly senior leaders, to develop substantially new mindsets and capabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to say too much. I can only say that as directors, we need to start with what we expect a board to do today in terms of compliance and upholding standards. We need to look at the rules we have set, governing how directors are selected, for instance, how they function, how they relate to shareholders, not paying attention to only the legal rules, but also aspirational practices that we have allowed to influence corporate director behavior. Obviously, the corporate governance models of today's organizations will not be fit for organizations of the future. Even though we say the future is now, we live in a world which is changing at a dramatically fast pace, and where the development of advanced technologies and scalability of these technologies like artificial intelligence, the blockchain, quantum computers is exponential. Organizations are adapting to this new reality, and it changes how we work, behave, and create value to stay relevant in the future. Contingent on this paradigm shift, the Governing Council of the Institute recently approved the addition of a cutting-edge capacity development program to the Institute's Director Open Enrollment Programs. This is the company direction course 3, titled Building Future Ready Boards. This program is essentially aimed at positioning boards to be agile, resilient, more visionary, and proactive in the face of business disruptions and uncertainties, so that they will birth future-ready organizations. So today we have with us an amazing lady, a leading African investment banker, lawyer, chartered secretary, stockbroker, and an author. So she's the executive vice chair of the Imagine Africa Group, Mrs. Toyin F. Sani. I am proud to welcome our guest speaker on behalf of the Governing Council and the entire members of the Institute of Directors, and thank her for honoring our invitation. I was just telling her that it was like yesterday she started this organization, but lo and behold, it has made steady strides. The Institute of Directors has continued to show greater concern and commitment to working with all stakeholders to engender a business-friendly environment for robust economic growth. We have continued to canvass for good corporate governance practices of all public and private sector organizations in the country. And we continue to partner with all business leaders from both public and private sectors to put forward our innovative ideas for the collective benefits of all. To all our members seated here, I charge you to appreciate the privilege of our status in the Institute and remain steadfast and focused in our support of IOD Nigeria for its growth and development. The leadership of the Institute will continue to value your commitment. I thank you very much for your commitment. We will continue to value the principles you stand for and your contributions to nation building and development. Once again, I thank all our eminent personalities, guests, associates, friends of the Institute who have spared their time to join us at this exciting forum. Let me end by thanking the chairman of the Membership and Brand Development Committee, the DG, and staff of the IOD Secretariat for organizing this event. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.
Can we give her another round of applause? Thank you. While I was just counting the room, I realized that one or two personalities have walked in, and I'd like to just recognize the presence of Mrs. Bisi Adeyemi, President, Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, ma'am. I'd also like to recognize right now Mrs. Toki Mabogunje, MIOD, immediate past president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being here. So without wasting our time, just before I invite the guest speaker of the day to come and give her address, I'll just give a brief profile of our guest speaker. Our guest speaker today is Mrs. Toyin F. Sani, AIOD, founder and CEO, Emerging Africa Group. She's a leading African investment group. Emerging Africa Group is a leading African investment group focused on investing in sectors with catalytic impact on growth and development, cutting across roads and power infrastructure, investment banking and asset management, microfinance banking, information communication technology, and capacity building. She sits on multiple boards, serving as chairman, Emerging Africa Asset Management Limited, chairman, Layer 3, and non-executive director of Transport PLC. She's the founder and chairperson, Women in Finance Nigeria, and founder, Women in Finance Nigeria UK, a platform for advocacy, development, and networking of women in the financial sector and other financial roles in Nigeria. She also serves as an ambassador for Nigeria on the Africa CEO Forum. I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Mrs. Sonny has had over 35 years of experience as a prominent investment banker, business leader, public personality, and speaker. She derives satisfaction from grooming future leaders, and she leverages networks across markets and has extensive experience working on leading transactions to achieve growth objectives and proffering capital solutions for financing and investing challenges of African governments, businesses, and individuals. Her prior roles include Group Chief Executive Officer, United Capital, PLC, CEO, UBA Trustees and UBA Global Investor Services, CEO, Cornerstone Trustees, and AGM First Trustees, now FBN Quest Trustees. She's the President, Association of Investment Advisors, President, Investment Advisors and Portfolio Managers, and President, Association of Corporate Trustees. She's an alumnus of Lagos Business School CEO program, holds a master's degree in law from the University of Lagos and a first degree in law from the University of Ife. She's also a barrister and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, Chartered Institute of Secretaries and Administrators, member of Chartered Institute of Secretaries and Investments UK. Our speaker for today has attended several executive education programs, including leadership program of the Wharton Business School, the Global CEO program by the IESE Business School, and Portfolio Management School of the New York Institute, among several others. She's won several awards, and she was declared as the All-African Businesswoman of the Year 2017 by CNBC Africa. A round of applause, please. And Nigeria's CEO of the Year by Pearl Awards. In 2020, she was named one of Africa's top 3 CEO influencers on LinkedIn by Tech Times Africa. So without wasting our time and further ado, I'd like to invite our guest speaker for today, Mrs. Toyin F. Sonny, AIOD. Thank you very much. Show this.
Fumbling with the gadgets. The president and my dear sister of the Institute. Actually, I don't think we need that, right? We're using this. Okay, it's for the press or something. Apologies. President, Institute of Directors, my dear sister, Dr. Mrs. E.J. Jidema, FIOD, past presidents present, and leaders of the Institute of Directors present, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure for me to be here as your guest speaker at this May members evening. The topic that I have been asked to deliver is one that is very dear and close to my heart, simply because it is a topic that is essential for all of us as leaders and directors present here. And that is agile leadership and governance in unprecedented times. I am certain that there is nobody here who is in any doubt that we are indeed in unprecedented times, as our president so clearly outlined. If all we had to contend with was the coronavirus of the last 2 years, we would be living in unprecedented times. But as if the pandemic was not enough, now we're eyeing the specter of what, if not managed well,
some have speculated could actually be the coming of another world war. As we speak, we're dealing with the Russian-Ukrainian war and the impacts that it's having on global supply chains are already being felt. So these are times indeed when leaders have to rethink practically everything about what it means to be a leader. Rethink our approach to leadership, rethink what we consider to be our purpose in leadership, rethink our role as leaders, rethink the processes that we're adopting in our leadership, rethink the direction that we're taking our organizations to, rethink our understanding of our place as leaders in the scheme of things, rethink the burden of directorship and whether we should eagerly continue to accept this title director, or we should think a second and a third time before we take on the responsibilities of leadership. So these indeed are trying times. But personally, I believe that it takes an extraordinary time to reveal an extraordinary leader. And if we go through the annals of history, the leaders that have been regarded as exceptional leaders and that have been admired and talked about over time, they are so talked about because they proved themselves in times such as this. So without the kind of challenges that we're facing, without crisis, many times our mettle as leaders cannot really be revealed. So I'm pleased to make this presentation, and I'm going to be going into my slides now. I believe somebody is going to be, okay, you are there. So I'll just tell you when to move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. And I thank you for that wonderful introduction. I am touched and humbled. So we live in, please move to the next slide. We live in unprecedented times, and I think that precedent has been well established. Next slide. Now, what are the hallmarks of these unprecedented times we find ourselves in? There's confusion. There's a high level of uncertainty. Leaders are perplexed. Some are bewildered. The followership many times is disoriented, and the path, the way forward often seems unclear. Now, business and technological forces already required organizations to manage change. I mean, for the last 2 decades, we've been talking about change management, 2 or more decades. But the truth is, even when we discussed change management, nobody imagined the kind of changes that we're talking about. Nobody, absolutely nobody, predicted the kind of changes that we were talking about. So for the past more than 2 decades, we've been discussing change management and how leaders need to make decisions more quickly than ever before. But the COVID-19 pandemic has vastly intensified those needs. Never have companies of all sizes felt so much pressure to make their business models fit into changing requirements. The need for speed in decision-making has never been more important than now, because many times, just when you think you have it right, something new happens and you have to tweak the model again. The truth is that the need for speed will not be temporary. Digitization, globalization, automation, analytics, and the other forces of change will continue and will go on accelerating the pace of business and the movements of the world. I am a disciple of the late Professor Clay Christensen. I so much admired his theory of disruption and innovation strategy as a response to anticipated disruptions. But I'm honest to say that even when I listened to him and we thought we were positioning ourselves, taking all those steps, we still didn't anticipate the kind of changes we have had in the last couple of years. But for me, the very important lesson that we can all take away is that things are never going to be the same again. Is there anybody in any doubt about that? That things are never. It is true that we're here and practically nobody is wearing masks, but there are things that have changed that we cannot go back and unchange. And I'll talk about them a little more. So it's been said that the pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. These changes take different forms, including political change, energy crisis, civil conflicts, trade wars, or in extreme cases, mutant viruses, as we've seen. Throw into the mix the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and we live in the most unprecedented times in history, indeed. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about our business and how, we have had to dance to new tunes in the last couple of years. Please, next slide. Oh, sorry. I am the one that didn't move. I'm supposed to be on slide 4. Are we on slide 4, please? Okay, thank you very much. So honestly, I can skip slide 4 because, we have identified what has happened with the coronavirus and the Russian invasion. Let's move on. So what is agile leadership and how can we become agile leaders? Next slide, yeah, correct. So this concept, and I think the president mentioned that, was originally steeped in agile software development, and it initially referred to leading self-organizing development teams. And but the concept today is now used to more generally denote an approach to people and team leadership that is focused on boosting adaptiveness in highly dynamic and complex business environments. And that's what we're here to talk about today. How can I, as leaders, provide light and guidance for my institution through a time like this, that is a time of total confusion, and where organizations have tried so many things and have not been able to crack the way out? What qualities do I need to have as a leader? So agile leadership is a management style characterized by the ability to be calm in the face of pressure, react to unique circumstances effectively, be open to innovation, find ways to inspire and involve employees, and keep teams on the ground and the right path by prioritizing people over processes, focusing on customer needs, and seeing change as adding value. By adopting these, organizations and leaders can survive and perhaps even thrive in times of crisis and change. The pandemic has allowed many leaders to adapt an increasingly changing context by adopting more agile working methods. I said I will talk about our organization. I will just examine some of these qualities of the agile leader, and then I will talk about our organization. So the qualities that are in this, you have moved to the next slide. Yeah, you didn't wait for me. So the qualities include integrity. As a leader, we must have a very high level of integrity. And that means we should be self-aware and we should be accountable. Accountable to ourselves first and accountable to those whom we're leading. We must be conscious to the extent of, is my lifestyle, are my choices, are my decisions, is the way in which I regulate myself, is it consistent with what I am saying to my followers at a time like this? Because if ever there was a time when the people you are leading want to see positive example, it is this time. So am I staying at home and working from home because of the fear of the virus, but compelling other staff to work from the office. It could be as simple as that. Now, for you to be an agile leader, you obviously also have to give direction. You must be communicative and empowering. And it is so important, never more important than at a time like this. You must be inclusive, collaborative, and constantly engaging the teams. You must provide focused and decisive leadership, including a sense of urgency when required. And of course, we must be innovative, curious, and actually experimental. So now I can tell a little bit of our story. On May 5, that was earlier this week, that was last week, Thursday last week to be precise, we resumed at our premises for the first time in 2 years and 1.5 months. So after 25, almost 26 months at home, we returned to work in the office space. I can say that despite the challenges of this period, we recorded unprecedented growth in our organization during the period of lockdown. At the beginning of the lockdown, we had 22 staff. When we returned to the office, we had 92 staff. My colleague that came with me today, Tolu, I met her for the first time today. So we recruited people during the lockdown that we only met, interviewed via Zoom and met. And I'm sure, how many of us have done that in the course of this period? Practically, yeah. So many of us can say that people you never met. Now, these are things prior to the pandemic, we thought were unthinkable, that you will hire somebody you had never met. The first time I realized that the world has changed was when I hired a lady who is living in Kaduna. We hired her to work for us, and she was working as my personal assistant. And she was working 100% from Kaduna, whereas I am here in Lagos. I met her for the first time at my birthday ceremony when she, finally made her way to Lagos. But we had never met, and she was a very effective, not the job, not as an accountant, not as an analyst, but as a personal assistant. And again, we would have thought that was unthinkable. Now, when we resumed in the office, we also recorded, both in terms of the size of assets and also in terms of our revenues, we had actually multiplied by over 300%. What do I think was accountable for this type of growth? We found ways to stay, if possible, closer to our people whilst we were in lockdown and working from home than perhaps we were when we were in the office. We established very close lines, WhatsApp group for all staff, WhatsApp group for management, WhatsApp group for different team members. And one of the things that I think we got right was, how many of us have belonged to a WhatsApp group where they tell you things like, this is strictly for work-related news. Don't send anything else except work-related. And then the administrator will threaten to yank you off if you send anything that is not work-related. And let me be honest with you. When you are forced to work thousands of miles away from one another as colleagues, when you are forced to lead teams that will not see each other month after month, the worst thing you can do to your groups is to ban light banter, jokes, sharing news. What's the reason? Imagine you were working in a physical office, and when you enter that office, nobody smiles at you. Nobody cracks a joke with you. Nobody wants to be your friend. Nobody tells you what they read in the newspaper, what they saw on the news yesterday. You just come in and everybody goes to their seat. And when it is time to talk, this is business, this is what I want. How long would you stay in that office? Would you stay? Let me see somebody's hand up. You would stay in that company. Most of us wouldn't. So the point I'm making is that, and that's the reason why we decided to return to the office, because let me be honest with you, we had already established that we were able to operate very profitably working from home. We had established that we were able to grow our business working from home. We had established that the nature of our business was such that we can serve our clients remotely. But there was something missing: the personal touch, the bonding, the friendliness. And in the absence of that, people become like empty shells. In the absence of that, commitment to organizations and to teams, they begin to wane. And one of the things that people saw a lot of during the period of the pandemic was staff attrition. Are you aware that there was a lot of staff attrition? People were moving out of the country, relocating to places. And unlike in the past, when you needed to leave the place of work, you would think about how you're going to tell your line manager. You think about how you're going to tell your MD. You think about the story you are going to say to them. You think about the expression on their faces, how you're going to face them. And sometimes by the time you've thought of everything, you decide that you are not going anywhere again because you've built relationships with these people over the time. But during the pandemic, all that was gone out of the windows. So people would just send a letter into the office and say they're relocating to Canada. It was very easy to make those moves. So for me, the one thing that we need to recognize is that in the times in which we find ourselves, there's the temptation to allow remote working and technology and all the bypasses, so to speak, that technology has introduced into our lives. We are at risk of allowing it to take the humanity out of us and out of the workspace. And if we do that, our organization and we ourselves, we will lose over time. We won't know it as, it might take some time to discover it, but we will lose over time. So for us, we decided that there was benefit and there was value in coming back to a community. And I sent a message to team leads as we were resuming. I said to them, I have only two. As we're coming to the office, I have only two priorities: bonding and productivity. I don't want to hear, it is true we have set, we resume at 9, we close at 5, but don't be being counters. Don't throw the rule book at anybody, because these are people that have worked from their homes for over 2 years and they achieved results, and while saving us a lot of costs in overheads. So if you've brought them to the office now, we've not brought them to chase and terrorize anybody. We brought them just so that we can bond together them because we thought we would always, be able to be available in person. But I think the lesson for us today is the next time somebody comes and says, this is a new innovation, this is whatever, don't throw it out automatically. Learn it, understand it, find out what the capabilities are, and actually start using it so long as it improves your life, even though you're not compelled to use it. Next slide. So what's the comparison between traditional leadership and agile leadership? So traditional organizations are susceptible to getting bogged down with bureaucracy. Since all important decisions come from the top, they can be slow to respond to change. And this can have huge consequences because the people in the front line must be empowered to be able to respond to whatever they're facing at the time that they're facing it. Agile leadership, on the other hand, agile organizations rely less on legacy rules and processes and more on updating and optimizing processes to facilitate better work. They decentralize power and recognize the value companies derive from listening to employees on the frontiers. We have a concept on the front lines. When change occurs around them, agile organizations react quickly. We have a concept in our organization that we call psychological safety. You must give everybody safety to express themselves and say what they're facing in the marketplace and say how they feel about it. There must never be a time when anybody thinks they're too young, they're too junior, they're too dumb, their ideas are too, unoriginal for them to express. There must be an environment in which everybody, no matter how young, feels free to talk. Very recently, somebody came to me and said, oh, there was this training we had organized and that they noticed that we put some of our MDs on the training and we also put those whom they thought were pretty low on the same training. So they said, can we split this training into two? I said, why do you want to split the training into two? They said, oh, because, we saw these senior people and can we have a day when the big boys and the big girls come? And have another day when the other people. And I said, our organization is not a hierarchical organization. We have no difficulty in putting MDs and analysts in the same room to take a training, provided the training topic is relevant to everybody in the room. And don't ever assume that it is only the young people that can learn from the senior people. The reverse can happen. I personally have all types of mentors. When it comes to some of these technology initiatives, the young ones are my mentors. I listen to them, I pay attention to them, and I let them show me how it is done. If I ever get to a time when I think I know more than them, then I'm a fool. Something else that happens in hierarchical organizations is the process of communication. Go to the next slide. So agile leadership in unprecedented times. One of the things that happens is also the process of communication. I know that when I started working and I was raised in the banking sector and it doesn't get more structured than that. It has its advantages, one of the advantages is that you really do get structured. The other advantage, if you're not careful, is bureaucracy sets in. So one of the things that you are used to is lines of communication, and they tell you that you cannot shoot up to the boss and the boss cannot shoot down to the junior person. They always have to pass through the middleman. It was Jack Ma, I believe, that said, I don't think it was Jack Ma, I think it was Elon Musk. I'm trying to remember. It was one of them that said that one of the rules that they threw out of the book Fastest was that rule that I can't speak to the guy on the shop floor. I have to speak to his boss to speak to him. I think we've all been through those communication exercises where they show you that the longer the chain of communication, the more distorted the message gets. So many times, just the fact that I have to talk to the manager to talk to the analyst, already my message may have been distorted. So he says he reaches across to whoever he needs to reach across to pass whatever information that needs to be passed so that work can get done. How I try and bridge the gap so that somebody doesn't feel left out of the loop is that I always copy the boss so that they're in the know. And, if the person also below shoots up to me, I don't say to them, oh, why are you shooting up? Why didn't you tell your boss, whatever? I simply reply and copy the boss to get the boss's viewpoint on it. But whatever happens, that decision is taken and, we move on. So agile organizations they dispose of some of those old rules, because those old rules will not help us to get to where we want to get to. So agile leadership in unprecedented times means that you need to identify the trends that will continue beyond crisis. Let me provoke you with two trends that so many people in Nigeria are ignoring today, and I think we're ignoring them at our own peril. Who thinks that digital currencies, and to be specific, crypto, because when you say digital, you think of maybe the e-naira or whatever. No, but I'm talking about crypto. Who thinks that cryptocurrencies are going to disappear and become irrelevant in this room? Who thinks that they're going to get less relevant than our regular currencies? And okay, good. Who in this room has investments in cryptocurrencies? One person, thank God. So we're like the ostrich that is burying its head in the ground and thinking that if I don't see it, it will go away. They're not going away. After the United States of America, Nigeria is the second largest crypto market. Are we aware? By the way, the same way that every other type of investment, when it started, everybody thought this is crazy. These people are rogues. They want to kill us. They want to scam us. It's the same way that, so bottom line is that they're not just currencies. Increasingly, they're also becoming an asset class. And so what should you do when a new major asset class emerges, especially if, like me, you are in financial services? Ignoring it, pretending it doesn't exist. By the way, how many of us have people in our households that are between the age of 20 and 26, 27? Do you know that those guys will rather put their money in the cryptos and in those electronic wallets than put it in your bank that is paying them 5%, 4%, whatever? Now, who makes up the majority of Nigerians and sub-Saharan Africans? Those guys, right? So do you think they're going to suddenly become like you and me as they grow older? No. They're going to continue to be who they are, see what they see, and they're going to influence decision-making and investments in that direction. And so not positioning ourselves and our organizations just simply means we're not agile. So thinking ahead and guessing the future, that's what an agile leader does. You think ahead and you project and you get the futures, and you guess into the future. How many of us are familiar with non-fungible tokens, NFTs? Okay, one or two people, thank you. How many of us know also that NFTs will continue to gain relevance? Very simple reason. In the past, we held our assets, we did our markets, our communication, we looked at our paintings in galleries, physical places where people went. Is it true? But today, where do you admire the most pictures, paintings, artwork, creative works? Is it in galleries and in physical rooms? It's in the digital space. So why would people not need to lock down those assets in the digital space? First of all, they use it to create money. More importantly is that they establish proprietary rights in those assets so that the more hits, the more people go and watch and admire those things, the more money they make. So how many people here are invested in NFTs? Are we agile leaders? So agile leaders have more than one strategy. You can't have just one strategy. If you had one strategy alone for your business, you are dead. The first thing we did when the pandemic started, I'll move faster now. I need someone to tell me how many minutes I have left. 5, 7, 2, 3, 1. I can do any. So one of the first things we did, will not fire anybody, but we took all those people, that front office people, receptionists, all those, runners. We took them brought them in and gave them digital training. We said, so we changed their titles. We said, you are no longer front desk officer, customer, whatever. We changed their titles and we said, you will now be a digital, what was the title we gave them? I mean, Bola, what was the title we gave them? We gave them, it was something to do with digital. So we gave them new titles and we said they were digital, digital financial advisors, something like that. And then we put them into training. We did this as far back as April 2020. We didn't wait for that pandemic to hit. By April 2020, we withdrew all those, we put them in a classroom, changed their titles, and we put them on online and said, go after your clients there in the digital space. That's why we were able to survive. And we're not even where I think the possibilities are, but we're working on it. So define your areas of greatest risk and take action. Use downturns to reshape your business for the future. That's the point I'm making. Use the downturns to rethink, reshape, replan your business for the future. I have reached a stage where I believe that downturns are a major blessing because they're always an opportunity for us to grow, for us to do things differently. And of course, adopt new leadership styles for tomorrow's challenges. Okay. So next slide. Madam, you didn't tell me how many minutes I had. 10. Oh, I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you. So agile leadership, I'm sorry, I think it's the lighting. You can't read it, but I'm sure we'll get copies later. So agile leadership in unprecedented times, still on that. Identify trends that will continue beyond crisis. At the beginning of the crisis in our organization, we did a strategy session to identify how the pandemic was going to impact our organization and then, craft strategies. It is time for every organization to have a new strategy session at which you discuss what are the trends that will be sustained post-pandemic, irrespective. What are the new things that the world that are not going to change again? And build your strategy for the future around those and the further new things that will come post-pandemic. So take a long, hard look at the basics of your business. What is really changing? Will your business bounce back, or will the world have moved on and left you behind? I want to do what we do in church now. In my other life, I'm a pastor. Look at your neighbor and say, will your business bounce back, or will the world have moved on and left you behind? Avoid short-term thinking. In a crisis, managers are often busy fighting fires and become too stressed to think beyond the end of their noses. They stop looking at the broader future and lose perspective. And they can end up making really bad decisions, which might look fine in the short term, but damage the longer term outlook. Please avoid firefighting. I'm very sorry, but I think that's why we got to where we are today as a nation. We never think beyond the next election, the next crisis, the next whatever. I don't know why. Why can't we go to the drawing board and actually think and say, look, what's the vision we have for ourselves as our nation? What's our purpose as a nation? What's our mission? It's not only organizations that should have vision and mission. What is, please, maybe I'm the ignorant person. Does anybody know Nigeria's vision? Can you educate me? What's Nigeria's vision? You know, the same way for your company, if I ask you to stand up now, you will tell me your vision. What's Nigeria's vision? Mission, uncle. Neither of the above. So let me be honest with you. Tell the truth and let the devil be ashamed. You go into a company today, and I'm not talking about the staff. You go to the MD and say, MD, what's your vision? Says, what's your mission? Do you really think that organization will last? Will it go very far? So maybe we should start thinking again. So managers can manage day-to-day decisions in a crisis, but real success requires leadership, which takes a wider view, gives people hope, lifts them beyond the situation, motivates and encourages them. And that's what we need as a nation. That's what we need as a people. That's what we need in our organizations. That's what we need at IOD. Somebody that gives you a long view. something to hope for, something to look forward to, something to dream of, something that keeps you going, something that means I won't kill my brothers, I won't kill my sisters, I won't use them for ritual because I can see a brighter future ahead. When the people can't see anything, they become cannibals. So define areas of greatest risk and take action. An organization must map out its major areas of risk to be ready to face up to bad news early. One of the things, I have a mentorship class that I take that is run by one of our divisions, the Imagine Africa Capacity Building. And one of the things that I emphasize, I mentor executives and business leaders, and I tell them, every single one of them, I sound like a prophet of doom when I say it, but I tell them, every cohort, I tell them, we're on cohort 3 now, sooner or later, a crisis will appear on your doorstep. You can't wish it away. You can't pray it away. You can't confess it away. You can't Bible it away. Sooner or later, a crisis will land on your doorstep. What determines the quality of your leadership is how will you manage and handle that crisis. People have handled and managed crisis and become superstars. People have handled crisis in particular ways and they went into oblivion. Which one will you be? Create an open climate and make leaders as accessible and approachable as possible. The one thing that anybody that knows me can say is I am very accessible. I make myself accessible. Let me tell you a joke. Once in a while, you come across people. Yeah, this is something we need to talk about. The difference between a traditional organization and an agile organization. In a traditional organization, the leader becomes like a god or goddess that only one line of people can access. Guess what happens? That line of people, some of them, instead of delivering value to the organization, they begin to take their relevance from the gates that they're manning. I don't know whether you understand me. So you now suddenly find you have people, I'm the executive director, I am the senior director, I'm the principal manager. They're not adding any value, they're not doing anything. All they're doing is that before you get anything, you have to pass through me. So I actually have a situation in which somebody sent somebody to me and said, please, can you tell Madam she's making herself too available, that some of the things she shares on platform, she should not share it, she should give it to. The times and dates for all that, they're gone. They're gone forever. They're gone bye-bye. Today, your value is actually measured by. That's why today they now talk about, your number of followers, your number of contact points, your number of likes. I know you can take that to another extreme, but the point I am making is that agile leadership is not a remote leadership. It's a live, real, present leadership that people can touch, feel, taste, and enjoy. And one of the problems with leaders that make themselves too remote is that when the managers and the people on the shop floor, when they encounter crisis or bad news, the process by which they're going to escalate it to you, who can really fix the problem, is long. And by the time the news gets to you, the cat is out of the bag, is dead. They don't even have the confidence. They can't walk up to you. You must have an organization where no matter how lowly, if they think it is important enough, they should be able to walk up to you and say, look, we just wanted to bring this to your attention. So, next slide, please. So, if you had a blank sheet and started from scratch, what kind of structure will you create for your organization? Remember, use the downturns to reshape your business for the future. So ask yourself, if I could craft this again. By the way, you don't have to be locked into the structure you met. You don't have to be locked into the hierarchy you met. It doesn't have to be, it's not the one as it was in the beginning, so it was, so shall be forevermore. No. If you could redesign your entire framework, your organization, what would it look like? By the way, you can. So a downturn is an ideal opportunity to deal with long-standing problems, throw everything into the ground, rearrange it again, close unproductive business units, for example, get out of an area of work that people have been so emotionally attached to and yet is not producing. And of course, like we said, have more than one strategy. It was Harvey Mackay that said, write all the strategy. Write a fantastic strategy plan, but be prepared to abandon it and go to plan B if what you make, after you have tried, you've pushed, is not working. Be prepared to move to something else. But the discipline, that the fact that the discipline of still putting the strategy in place will help you, but it doesn't mean that what you're going to meet is exactly what you thought. So old ways of working break down when the world experiences rapid change like now. So you need to develop new leadership styles for tomorrow's challenges. Look for unusual ways to solve problems, include radical thinkers in the mix. Okay, so I'm going to say this as well. One of the things we do in our organization is that when we're having meetings at which we're trying to take, especially new decisions, I don't do anything if all I'm hearing is a yes. In fact, the more yeses I hear, so by the time it gets to a point you're going, I will say, yeah, brilliant, beautiful. I just pause and I say, okay, who thinks we should not be doing this? Who feels differently about this? Then I listen to them. But and then we take the points on board and then we tweak our plan if the points make sense. But if you think the fact that everybody is saying yes means that's the right thing to do, it's not always true. And you need those dissenters. You need those people that think differently. I encourage them. Honestly, they will irritate you sometimes. They will irritate you. You are human. They will annoy you sometimes. You feel like, who brought this child into this meeting? But sometimes you go back and you rethink what that child said and you realize that perhaps the emperor had no clothes and it was only the little child who was honest enough to say it. You need those dissenters. So be open to new ideas and welcome criticism. So what's the future for company directors like those of you eminent ladies and gentlemen in this room? A result from, next slide, please. A result from McKinsey Global Survey of more than 800 board directors and executives post-COVID confirmed that whilst overall corporate performance suffered during the pandemic, boards were quick to rise to the challenge of navigating the global public health and economic crisis. So give yourself a clap. Boards apparently responded very well to the pandemic. Boards have also implemented new structures and processes, become more flexible in their agenda. So for me, the lesson is, please pick good directors, sound people, solid people, people who can think well, and pay them. One of the tough decisions we took when we were starting 4 years ago was from day one, we decided we were going to pick, first of all, we're not going to do one board for 4 companies. Each company will have its own board, different chairmen, different board members, and each board member will be remunerated fairly and decently. And I remember my directors themselves calling me and saying, you are just a startup. Why are you trying to pay us? Don't pay us anything. We just want to support your vision. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because if I don't pay you anything, it's rent, and I've never believed in rent. If I'm taking your time every quarter, I want you, when you are in that meeting, I want you to have that sense that you are present and you are committed. And it has helped us a great deal. We have amazing people coming to join our boards. We just signed on another couple of internationals. There's a news right now where, 4 internationals that joined us, because from day one, we let them know this is serious business and we need them to be all in. So please have good, if you appoint good directors when there is peace, when there is no crisis, the time you will enjoy them is when the crisis comes, because you will have amazing guidance and leadership. So embrace diversity. I think diversity. So there is diversity for Nigeria. There's diversity of religion. There's diversity of culture. There's diversity of people from different parts of this federation. There's diversity in terms of having internationals. There's diversity, gender diversity is very critical. There's diversity of age. Everybody on your board doesn't have to be 70 and above. The 30-year-olds have stuff to add as well. So make sure you have all those kinds of diversity, and I mean it. And then data is the new gold. is the new everything. Data makes all the difference. So please make sure that you are, putting those digital footprints, gathering that data and learning how to use it well, and get the right consulting help that you need to know how to do this. And please protect data. Don't run foul of data protection laws. I'm moving fast now because I'm sure I'm in injury time now. So what's the future? Next slide. For company directors, we need to embrace and become better at innovation. We must continue to embrace innovation. Boards need to reconcile the urgent need for innovation in this remarkable moment of upheaval with the traditional boardroom responsibility. And by the way, I do believe that boards need to provide stability for organizations. I do believe that boards need to provide rational, calm, decision making, but they must combine it with innovation and ability to welcome and embrace change. Otherwise, they will lead the organizations into the graveyard as opposed to leading them into the sky, which is what we want. So create better conditions for creativity and agility by encouraging different ideas and viewpoints, even on boards as well. Please don't hire everybody is a banker, everybody is a finance person, everybody is a lawyer, everybody is a governor. It doesn't matter what kind of organization you are. You need that, that mix of different people with different opinions, and that's what makes for the best quality boards. And yes, take bigger steps on stakeholder capitalism. If ever there was a time when you need to show the world that your organization is not existing for profit alone, it is now. And that you are not existing to pay staff alone or to pay dividends alone, it is now. Because of what the world has suffered, the need for organizations that are empathetic, organizations that see the bigger picture. In fact, we have had to change our entire vision and mission to reflect our new direction, which is ESG focused. So I can see my madam looking at me. The remaining slides, please. One of the things we had to do during this period, next slide, is to set up, because we realized the importance of capacity building. And it was during this period that we set up our capacity building division. And next slide, you can see from leadership development to executive coaching to employability solutions to training and develop HR services. And in the last 2 years, working remotely, they have achieved so much, so much. Next slide. And that's the impact since 2020. 7,206 total persons have benefited from the programs. Over 4,000 women in particular, people from 64 countries, 12 programs since June 2020. And the Emerging Africa group itself, today we have 10 businesses within the group. As with everybody, we started with one, actually with two. And today we have the Emerging Africa, next slide please, Capital Limited, which is the parent company. We have the Advisory Limited, which is the investment bank company that raises capital for organizations. We have the asset management business that manages funds. We have the trust business that looks after legacy. We have the capacity building that trains. We have venture capital that is actually under incubation, being new funds to be launched. We have the infrastructure funding company, NCNR, and we have Fundor Technology, which is our fintech solution and our own pathway towards evolving into the future of financial services as we see it. We have two microfinance banks, Gwang, which is based in Kaduna in the north, and Treasures here in Lagos. Thank you so much for the opportunity to make this presentation. I do hope I have added some value, and I look forward to your questions and comments.
Well, I think she deserves more than that. Thank you so much. Thank you to our guest speaker. so many lessons to learn. I was just writing and writing qualities of agile leaders, integrity, working from the heart, communicate regularly, embracing innovation, realizing that everybody has something to say, giving our subordinates the opportunity to express themselves, just on and on and on, empowering your team. Thank you very much for those valuable insights, madam. We've come into the question and answer session, and the floor is open for members who have questions, comments. Okay, comments. I'm sure that we have a mic somewhere. My team are around. So do we have any questions on the guest speaker's presentation? Can we give the guest speaker a microphone so she will answer from where she's seated? I think she's been standing for quite a while. We need to appreciate that. Thank you. Comments, questions, suggestions, additions, subtractions, multiplication? Okay. Toby, someone has a question. Can we give her a mic, please? He has a question.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Stanley, for that presentation. It was very engaging. Am I audible? How about now? Okay. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Stanley, for the presentation. It was a very engaging one. One of the things you mentioned during the course of your presentation with regard to agile leadership is the need to prioritize people over processes. So I was wondering if you could speak a bit more on that with regards to why it's important and practical ways to go about achieving it.
Okay, thank you very much. So prioritizing people over processes is recognizing, first of all, that the organization, at the end of the day, the progress of the organization depends on the productivity of the people. And giving the people a voice, ensuring that the people are engaged, and also making sure that the processes we have put in place are working for the people. So let me give you an example, practical one. We decided to all work to resume at the office from Monday to Thursday. And on Friday, we would work from home. So yesterday, one of my managers came to me and said, one of my team members brought me a receipt to show that it cost him 7,000 naira to get to the office today. And tomorrow it's going to cost him 7,000 naira as well. Now, this is a young analyst. He simply cannot afford to spend 7,000 a day to get to work. So what I said to her was, guess what? Tell him to work from home for the rest of this week whilst we sit down with HR and work out what we're going to do about people in that kind of situation. We also decided that we would not resume at 8 a.m. Before the pandemic, we used to resume at 8 a.m. We said we were going to resume at 9 a.m. just to give people 1 hour to adjust, to this, coming back to the office. And then we said to heads of departments, and we actually wrote them an email and said, as a team leader, you can permit anybody on your team to leave from 4 p.m. at your discretion. And it can even be a permanent permission. So if you look at their circumstances and you see that based on and we didn't say nursing mothers alone, we didn't say fathers, we said, if you, the idea is to empower team leads. So this is not a decision that should come to HR, this is not a decision that should come to the MD. As a team lead, if your team member, you examine circumstances of the team member and you see that this person needs, an extra hour to leave early, it's within your power to give them permission to go. So those are those kind of examples of essentially just making sure that you are prioritizing the needs, the well-being of the people above the rules that we make. So it's just man was not made for the law, so to speak. The law was made for man.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Just before we go further, I think we should just save some time, warehouse some of the questions, and then our guest speaker will take everything at the same time. I think that'll help us. Just before I go, I want to recognize the presence of the immediate past president of the Institute of Directors, Chief Chris Okunawo, DFIOG. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir. I also want to recognize Vice Chairman of the Membership and Branch Development Committee, Dr. Uche Olowu, FIOD. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. So I suggest that we ask our questions, we'll note it down, and then the guest speaker will take them one after the other. And that includes those on the online platform. So someone was going to ask a question, yes.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sonny. Very insightful presentation. Now, human beings are, with the vast majority, are averse to uncertainty. And one of the ways of trying to deal with uncertainty is to get as much information as possible. And that, played out during the COVID crisis when non-executive directors wanted to be a lot more involved. I mean, that was part of the response which McKinsey commended, wanted to get a lot more involved, perhaps even to the point of being a bit operational, which under normal circumstances is one of the sins of a non-executive role. But you also talked about the need for very rapid decision making. So as we're moving, perhaps, hopefully, back into peacetime, COVID is, we've learned many lessons from COVID, but what suggestions would you give to non-executive directors in terms of weaning themselves off that, temptation to be operational, which was one of the ways they were managing crisis, but it's not sustainable, or rather it isn't ideal in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We have just a minute, madam. We have a question from the Zoom interface, and that question is, agile leadership and a person's personality, is there a correlation? So, okay, ma'am. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Ms. Sani, for a brilliant and wonderful presentation today. And my name is Chizo Malize. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of FITC. It's quite a lot of learning for us today. Now, I looked through all that you have shared, and those are wonderful things, especially with the case with your organization. Given how far you've come with this excellent execution, have you also thought about agile methodologies, which allows you apply, there's a lot of interference, but I just hope that allows you apply technology to leading your organization into the next phase. So technology has made it possible to use systems and processes to apply true agile. And when investments are made around those technology processes, both your people and your resources and your organization will truly become highly automated, highly digitized, and more importantly, result-driven. Have you thought about that? Because it's excellent to be able to take it to the next level at this time. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, expose. I see you're very well diversified. In fact, am I correct to say they are jack of all trades and master of all at the same time. I also noticed that you have, you said you have 2 microfinance banks in your setup. And I do know that that sector is not a walk in the park. So I wish you the best of luck. So, and you said that you've done quite well. So I don't know whether it's too early to reach that verdict as far as that sector is concerned, because the experience in Nigeria is that microfinance banks, mortgage banks, the same way they started is the same way they go out of existence. So what is it that has made you tick, you and your team, to be so successful in in that ecosystem? Thank you. Sorry? Oh, sorry, sir. My name is Mr. Razulike. I'm the chairman and chief executive of Spectrum Marine. Thank you.
Okay, just before we take the next question, please. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes, he's been sitting very quietly at the back, trying not to be recognized, but I don't want to embarrass you, sir, but I must recognize our sponsor for today. He's laughing at me, but I said, no, I must mention. And he is Mr. Sumola Bakari, MIOD, and he's the MD, CEO of AB Offshore Marine Services. Thank you very much, sir. We really do appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, yes, we just take 2 more questions in the interest of our time. So the last 2 questions, please. Can someone give the lady and then the gentleman? Thank you.
My name is Olubukola. My question relates to what you said about being accessible. Because oftentimes we learn of staff complaining about remuneration, so where they have issues or complaints regarding their remuneration, and then the MDCO has made herself that accessible, how do you manage that? And then Agile leadership, and then the staff's care package, is there a correlation? Because when you say Agile leadership will promote or will increase production, then that will lead to perhaps bigger assets. It will lead to you looking as fabulous as you're looking right now. So how do you manage staff, wanting to look like that, and then they're wondering, am I being commensurable, compensated for services rendered, vis-a-vis your being that accessible?
The gentleman in front wanted to ask a question, and that's the last question, please, because we need to manage your time.
All right. I make it quick. So, question. One is on stakeholder capitalism. Check. We don't know, they say it's Nakamoto, we don't know who is forming it. When you see it goes up 30%, as an asset, you call it an asset class. Okay, there are oil and gas people here. They will say, we drill the oil, we take it out, put it in a barrel, sell it. We see it. You take your dollar, borrow against it, spend it, you are looking at it. Your real estate, you are seeing your house. You are seeing, so when you call it an asset class, you still have the wallet in the what they call explain exactly why it's an asset. And even if the young people will eventually lead and they will be in policy and changing CBN to allow does it mean that because they will now approve something that is sort of toxic to some people who don't really understand it? So help us decipher that.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me start from the first question. And that was about how do we, is it still working? That was about how do we be non-executive directors, because it is true in every organization is experiencing some form of crisis or the other. And in this case, it was a global crisis. What happens is that all the stakeholders come together to, get more involved to fix it. And so what you're saying is that during the pandemic, a lot of NADs have become more operational than ideally they should be. So the first counsel is to remind everybody that the crisis is over. And so as NEDs, we should go back to our and allow management to do what management is equipped to do best. Now, once in a while, saying it is not enough to win people off habits. So if I was the chairman of such an organization, or if I was the CEO, so if I was the CEO, and my chairman is one of those people to win, I would find a way to pass the message across. If I can't get the message across myself, I will find a way to organize training for the board. One of the things that we have used very effectively at the Emerging Africa Group is don't joke with board training at all. At the minimum, first month of the year, all our directors, and it's amazing, amazing. We bring really great people they speak to, and it's not targeted at fixing a particular problem, just updating the boards on all the different aspects of being directors, and also executives come and also talk about the business. So in a way, I have discovered that it's a very fantastic way to address problems like that. It's not everything that you, as the CEO, can see. But if you bring the right people that they respect before them, they will tell them what needs to be told, and everybody will adjust themselves. Because I believe that you already chose the right direction. Okay, now the second question is, is there a relationship between agile leadership and personalities? Any correlation? I don't really think so, because what we're talking about is responsive leadership. It's leadership that is quick to make decisions, leadership that embraces change, and that is something that can be learned. And all that matters is, do we agree that this is an imperative? If we agree it's an imperative, then we'll learn it and we'll train ourselves. Some people will probably be early adopters. They might pick it up faster. It may come more naturally to them, but it doesn't mean that there's any personality type that cannot be agile if they are trained to be. That's what I think. Now, the third question was application of technology. Oh, you are preaching to the converted. Not only did we believe that technology was critical to taking us to the next level, we decided to invest in a technology subsidiary. And the first mandate is to help us to implement our digitization agenda across the group. And what they cannot essentially sell at home, they can go and sell to the market. We're also working with a leading consulting firm as we speak, who are also helping us to map out what will be our next phase of digitization initiative. So I am totally on board, and thank you, my dear sister, for asking. Yeah, it's working. So the gentleman that asked whether we are a jack of all trades, far from, we're not a jack of all trades. We're well diversified, largely within the finance and investment space. And so that's not a jack of all trades at all. We're very focused. We're in the finance and investment space,
And the only aspects of what we do that don't sit within that space are capacity building, which we think is relevant to everything. And again, 50% of our capacity building is focused on our own needs first. What we can't sell at home, we won't take outside. And then the other aspect of the business is the technology, and it's financial technology. So we actually see very, very clear synergies between everything that we do. It's interwoven, it works excellently for us. Now, you asked about the microfinance space. We are new to that space. And the reason why we're in that space is because we think that it is part of what we need to get to the next stage of the digital banking solution that we're rolling out through our fintech subsidiary. So it provides the regulatory ambit for it. We're not doing it the traditional brick and mortar way. We're using it to roll out our digital banking solution. We're hopeful. We are not blind to the challenges of that industry, but we think that we have the capability to navigate the waters. And by the grace of God, time will tell. But we're not putting and we're also, how do I put this? And that's what we've always done. We grow in phases. So we're not throwing so much into that space that it can disrupt everything else that we do. We're entering gradually and we're watching the space. And as usual, we have an excellent board for each of those entities and crack leadership team. So we think we can do it. Thank you. The fifth question is being accessible, complaints about. Now, I'm going to share my radical view about employee remuneration. The one thing you need to understand is that the day your employees are with you because they are trapped, your organization begins to die. By the grace of God, 3 of our people are in the room as I speak. So your remuneration package cannot be something that you are so uncomfortable about that you are hiding from your staff. I have no reason to hide from anybody because they understand the principles that guide our remuneration. They understand that we aim to be a wonderful place to work. They understand that the employees have an opportunity to share, to have a fair share of the value that we're creating. They understand that they're our priority, and they never had to remind us before we revised remuneration. When the lockdown started, the first thing we did, in fact, once the coronavirus started, the first thing we did was we started buying care packages for our staff, which is actually food stuff, because we weren't sure whether they were able to go out to shop. So we were having a company deliver food stuff to our staff at home. Then we started getting them. We hired, we got a company that had a pool of cars. We were paying for the cars. This is outside of the remuneration to take them home and bring them back. Then we decided, okay, don't come again. And since you are working from home, we gave them a 25% boost on their remuneration, which we called work from home allowance. So it's reimbursable. Just bring receipts up to 25% of your pay. You can get as extra as long as you show us that you spent it on diesel or fuel or whatever it is. And we implemented that. Now, when we came back to the office, HR asked, are we going to withdraw the work from home? Because now we're incurring the overheads. And I just laughed and said, no, we're not going to do that. That's the worst thing you can do. So I don't have to hide from anybody. They know, and if you deserve something, by the way, if you deserve to be promoted 3 times a year, you will get it. So, like I said, my people are here. By the way, my director of resources is here. So she's the one that is spinning out all those ideas and all that. But the point is, there's no reason. I don't think you should run an organization in which you are dodging from your staff, or your lack of accessibility is because you can't look at them eyeball to eyeball and justify what you are paying them and how you are paying them. By the way, I have cut pay before, so it's not all whatever. We've cut pay before when we realized that we had pinched our pay. This was early days. We had pinched our pay higher than our ability, and we had not grown enough to accommodate it. I sat down with people. Transparency is so critical. Sat down and explained to them, we don't want to keep digging a hole. Let's get out of this hole. Give me 6 months. Let's slash this pay. I got the biggest slash. I got a 40% slash. The analysts who were at the lowest didn't get any slash. We just stopped serving them lunch. And we graduated it like that all the way to my level where I got a 40% slash. By the grace of God, 6 months down the line, we were in the black and we've never looked back. So it's not money alone that it takes to lead a people and to keep them. It's transparency and genuine commitment to their well-being. If they know that the leadership is committed to their well-being, and by the way, they didn't resign, they didn't go. During that period, throughout those months when we slashed the pay, the bulk of our people stayed with us and they were happy. And I mean, maybe they weren't happy exactly, but they believed. Let me put it like that: they believed in us. They believed in where we were going. I hope I've answered your question. So the last question is about, and let me be realistic here. Okay, stakeholder capitalism and then crypto. So all I'm saying is that we must run businesses with a human face. Our businesses must be relevant to society. Our businesses must be adding value. And it's one of the reasons why we decided our focus is not, it can't be just about making money alone. We'll make money, but we should do good while doing well. Because now the world, investors, customers, everybody is looking for, they're looking to do business with organizations that are something more than making money. And to the crypto, I'm not necessarily an apostle of crypto investment. We don't even have any crypto products on our table right now. I'm just stimulating our thought processes and letting us know that we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Elon Musk, I understand, made more money from his investment in Bitcoin than he actually made in the Tesla cars. So bottom line is that if this is, would you say Bitcoin is then not an asset class? Is it still just a currency? Do you get the point I'm making? So amongst the gamut of the thank you. The long list of cryptocurrencies have achieved. We can't throw everything away. And the truth is, they will keep getting refined, they will keep getting better, and it is going to be the currency of the future. That's the reality. So what I'm saying is, do we wait until that future arrives before? Now, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma. That was very enlightening. Just before I invite the Director General CEO of IOD to give the vote of thanks, let me just say it's been a pleasure anchoring this event. My name is Sena Ayodeji. I'm the Director of Membership and Branch Development in IOD. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I'd like to invite my boss, Mr. Dele Alimi, MIOD, to come and give the vote of thanks. Thank you, sir. Round of applause, please.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just before I give the vote of thanks, I think first we should specifically appreciate the guest speaker. And I want to invite our chief host, Madam President, to, in our traditional way, let us present the flag of appreciation to the guest speaker, to our wonderful guest speaker of today. So after then, I'll do the general thanks and appreciation to everybody. Madam President, and I think I also want to invite the second Vice President and host of this event, Mr. Oyebanji, and of course, our two revered past presidents that are here, Chief Chris Okunowa, the immediate past president, and past President Ahmed Rufai Mohammed, to please also join the president to appreciate the guest speaker. Thank you.
It is my privilege to make this presentation to our guest speaker this evening, Mrs. Toyi F. Sani, MIOB, the Executive Vice Chair of the Emerging Africa Group, in appreciation of your presence and role as the guest speaker at the May 2022 members meeting. I must say on behalf of all of us seated here that we actually got more than we bargained, beyond expectations. Thank you very much.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long evening, but I am confident that we've enjoyed ourselves and we've, like the president said, got what we bargained for and more than what we bargained for. So I want to, on your behalf, again, say a very big thank you to Mrs. Toyi Sani. The president has already upgraded you, so I'm not going to go back. Member IOD, we want to say a very big thank you to you for the wonderful experience that you've shared with us. I don't think there's anyone here who has not taken something away from listening to you. Your ideas are quite, I remember my lecturer in school call it avant-garde, because some of the things you've spoken about here gives me some insight into how to manage people. No matter how old you are doing this, there's always something new to learn. I want to say a very big thank you to you on behalf of the Institute. And you see, there's something about our Institute. We are Oliver Twist. I will continue to ask for more. We have identified you as one of the pearl in our membership, and I can assure you we'll be asking you to come and speak to us more often. Thank you very much. A round of applause again for our guest speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also join the compare of today to thank our sponsor. It's a good friend of mine, and his modesty is almost unquantifiable. He's a very, very modest person. But you have made it possible for this to happen this evening. I will just have to say thank you to you. I want to thank AB Offshore Marine Limited, and of course, by extension, the CEO of the organization, Mr. Sumola Bakari. Can you please stand up for recognition, sir? We say thank you very much for sponsoring this event. He's a member of the Institute. We say thank you very much. We really appreciate you. And of course, I also want to thank one of our past presidents who came all the way from Abuja to be a part of this event. We've not seen him for quite a while. No thanks to COVID. So it is really, really heartwarming and great to see you again, Alhaji Ahmed Rufai Mohammed. I think I used to call him PP14. Am I right, sir? You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. I also want to thank, of course, the chairman of the Membership and Branch Development Committee for the support. That is the second vice president, Mr. Adetunji Oyebanji, fellow of the Institute. Thank you very much, sir. And the committee is very well represented here today. We also have the vice chairman here, Dr. Uche Olowu, fellow of the Institute. You're welcome. Thank you very much, sir, for the support. And of course, immediate past president, sorry for the omission. It's also important that I say a very big thank you to you. You have been a pillar of support. I say very big thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for making it. And to our chief host, the president and chairman of council, you have driven us to always try to achieve excellence in all we do in the Institute, just like your predecessors. And I want to say a very big thank you to you again for the support we have received and for being with us all the time and giving us the necessary encouragement that we need. Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you for being here today. I know there are quite a number of council members of the Institute here this evening. Because I'm facing the light, I can't see everyone, and I don't want to make a mistake of mentioning one person's name and not mentioning this. So I want to say a very big thank you to all the members of council and ESCO who are here this evening. Thank you very much for coming. And to all our guests, our members, and our members who are also guests, I want to say thank you to you for coming. We are gradually coming back to the physical event. Very soon, we'll be hosting for the first time in the last two and a half years, our women directors luncheon. We are hosting this on the 24th of May. Please, I am not only addressing the women here, so that you won't think it's just for women. There is always so much to learn. Diversity is the thing now. And I'm using this opportunity to invite you to that event. It's going to be holding on the 24th of May at the EcoBank Resource Center in Victoria Island. And I'm using this opportunity to invite you all. You'll be getting the invite officially, but I'm also inviting you to please attend. Like I said, we are gradually coming back to hosting physical events, and we pray that the lesson we've learned will become very useful, but we don't want any more disruptions. And I pray we won't have. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe I have thanked you all. And I want to say again that we'll be having the next edition in the third quarter, and we look forward again to receiving you. We are looking forward to a bigger hall. And I want to also say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, to those that are online. I think we have over 40 people online who are here with us. So I want to say thank you to them for staying through. One of the hardest things to do is to stay on a 3-hour program online. It can be, if not for the kind of guest speaker we had today, it can be tiring. So I want to say thank you to them too for staying through. I want to say thank you to my colleague in the secretariat. You've been wonderful. It's a great relief to be able to sit back and watch you do it. And it's wonderful that it's a success. Thank you very, very much for making it happen. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you. And I can help Senna to call for the national anthem, if you don't mind. The national anthem, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, everyone. I wish you a safe journey back to your various